Here's Ben Shapiro, Pope of the Jews, focusing in on some of the really important stuff. This, of course, was Wednesday, January 5th. How are we going to avoid talking about January 6th? Well, of course, we're going to talk about the imposition. I saw some dude on Twitter today worried about a job application he filled out where he was asked, how do you want to be identified? You know, what pronoun do you want to be identified from? And he was like, this is
1984.
More or less is what he said. Like, I'm terrified.
I mean, that was Jordan Peterson's whole shtick, right?
It really is stunning. Like, can you believe they're asking this on a job application? Like, what application have you ever filled out where it's not like Mr. or Mrs.? And that wasn't terrifying? Here's Ben Shapiro, though, complaining, of course, that in the toy section at his big box store, he doesn't have the selection of toys in terms of how they're gendered. It makes him feel comfortable.
California has now mandated that every big box store in California, this kicked in the new year, every big toy store is required to create a gender-neutral toy section. Why? Why? So the answer that people will give you is, well, you know, we need a gender-neutral toy section for those kids who are having trouble with their gender identity. And so what you're really saying is that gender doesn't exist. Right? What you're really saying is there's no such thing as biological sex or human proclivities that are directed by biological sex or connected to it. Right? That human tendencies are not connected to sex. And anyway, we have to redefine sex across the biological spectrum to account for the fact that there are some people who feel uncomfortable. A vast, vast, vast minority. This is not how you make socio.
Pause it. So, see, like, he can't even do this. He can't even deliver the argument that he wants to deliver here. Go back, and I want you to listen. His argument is that the problem with a gender-neutral aisle at Costco for toys is that it is a complete failure to recognize that some genders that have proclivities. But while he's saying that, he's also denying that there are some genders that have other proclivities. So what he's saying is that having a gender-neutral aisle denies his proclivities simply because the neutral aisle exists, which doesn't mean that they can't have a male gendered aisle and a female gendered aisle, but that there needs to be a third aisle, which is not designed for little, girls who want, gendered dolls, I guess, or I mean, I don't even know how this, what this looks like in practice, but who cares? But for him, it's like, we should deny some people's proclivities, but not other people's proclivities. My proclivities, Ben Shapiro says, should be the proclivities for everyone, even though the idea of proclivity sort of suggests that they shouldn't be. Right? I mean, why would you even need the word proclivity?
Yeah, why would you need two separate words for gender and biological sex?
Exactly. If they're exactly the same. Just want to make sure it's doubly so. But let's go back. I mean, this is a
proclivities is funny.
He can't even express it. Go ahead.
Is, well, we need a gender neutral toy section for those kids who are having trouble with their gender identity. And so what you're really saying is that gender doesn't exist. Right? What you're really saying is there's no such thing as biological sex or human proclivities that are directed by biological sex or connected to it. Right? That human tendencies are not connected to sex. And anyway, we have to redefine sex across the biological spectrum to account for the fact that there are some people who feel uncomfortable. A vast, vast, vast minority. Okay, this is not how you make societal rules. Right? Disassembling basic ideas of the reality of male and female, that is not the way that you promote human happiness. That is the way that you promote chaos. Once again, the left does not seem to care about the fact that male and female are pretty rigid categories biologically. And when I say pretty, I mean innately rigid categories. And that human activities within those categories tend to fall along somewhat stereotypical lines. And that's not a bad thing. That societally speaking, that's quite a good thing. That doesn't mean that there aren't exceptions to the rule and we ought not treat those people with tolerance. We should. But that does not mean that you redefine gender entirely. And yet this is seen as a positive good. Why? Because there are exceptions, and we have to make sure that all of society is restructured in favor of this small group of people who have a problem with the societal institutions.
So just to be clear, having a gender-neutral toy section at Costco is completely restructuring society in such a way to lead to chaos. That's the argument here.
Yep.
Yep. Now, of course, I'm sure Ben would have no problem if society decided, you know what? There's so few temples, Jewish temples. Like, why are we giving them tax breaks? The main religion is Christianity. Let's just do that one instead of restructuring society in such a way that we have to allow for, you know, these small religions. I mean, that's his argument, right?
Yeah. It's tough for Ben because I feel like he's trapped by his own intelligence to an extent here. Like, he's too smart to not caveat all the time, saying like, look, I know there are exceptions and all this stuff and it tends and this and that. And he's also like not an anti-vaxxer like all the other like right wingers are. So he has to talk about the toy aisle, right? Like, what is Ben talking about these days?
Exactly. Who wants to place a bet that every single toy store in the country could develop only gender neutral aisles, right? Like, never mind that they have to have a gender neutral aisle, but that if you were to take the aisle that has all the Chatty Cathy dolls and mix them in with the aisles that have the, you know, G.I. Joes, and you were to do that, mandate that in every store, in every part of the country, that still would not lead to chaos. That things would be more or less exactly the same. I mean, it's just amazing to me that like a grown man can go and say these things and actually like not walk off the set and go, "Ugh, God, I can't believe I had to say that."
This is anarchy.
It is complete anarchy. G.I. Joe next to Chatty Cathy. Are you kidding me? What next? Are we going to have cat food and dog food in the same aisle?
I mean,
how will I know the difference between the cat bowl and the dog bowl?
it must have been it was like a trial balloon when they had the Power Rangers together, because you have girl Power Rangers and boy Power Rangers in the same section.
I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was like, as a parent, I'm like going shopping for a birthday present, and I can't figure out what to get them.
Yeah, it's gender pandemonium.
It was chaos. Complete chaos. And then I'd walk out of the toy store and I'm like, I don't even have, I couldn't even buy anything because it was just so, it just blew my mind.
I don't know who I am anymore.
Oh, God. What that must be rough. I mean, I almost feel bad for that guy.
Yeah.
Except for he probably believes it in some fashion.